My brothers and sisters, today I do not come to you as a politician. I come to you as a son of this continent, a child of Africa who has tasted the bitterness of oppression and has sworn never to accept the chains of silence again. I come to you not with words written in foreign offices, but with fire born from the struggle of our people. I speak not for the weak-hearted nor the apathetic. I speak to the youth who refuse to die begging. I speak to the elders who still believe. I speak to the warriors hiding in plain sight. We are at war, but this war is not fought with bombs alone. IT is fought in the mind, in the heart, in the spirit. IT is a war for our dignity, a war for our destiny. And if we are to win, then we must rise above the fear that has been fed to US for generations. We must become unbreakable, uncompromising, unapologetic, because the one who controls your spirit controls your future. The one who colonizes your mind will make you build your own prison. The one who weakens your body will make you kneel when you should stand. And so today, let US begin this journey not of comfort, but of courage, not of escape, but of engagement. Because the fight is spiritual, the fight is mental, the fight is physical, and if we are to defend our land, our culture, our people, then we must be unbreakable. The first and most dangerous battlefield is not in the streets or in the halls of government. IT is in the spirit. Because when a people lose their spirit, they lose everything. You can take away their land, their gold, their rights, but if their spirit is still alive, they will rise again. But if you destroy their spirit, you can control them even when they are surrounded by freedom. That is why the fight is spiritual first. IT is the invisible war that determines every visible outcome. And today, many of our people are defeated not because of guns or sanctions, but because their spirit has been broken by fear, by doubt, by shame, by a system that teaches them to hate who they are and love who oppresses them. The enemy knew long ago that to control Africa, they didn't just need armies, they needed to kill the African spirit. They needed to make the African bow internally while standing physically. They needed to rip God out of our homes and replace him with dependency. They needed to make us believe that dignity is found in foreign approval, that to pray is to be weak, that to hope is to be foolish. But I tell you this, there is nothing stronger than a spirit that refuses to surrender. There is nothing more dangerous to oppression than a people who know their worth beyond material measure. And until we reclaim that spiritual fire, no political election, no foreign aid, no global deal will ever liberate US. Our ancestors survived slavery because their spirit could not be chained. They were whipped, but they still sang. They were dehumanized, but they still resisted. They were thrown into the darkness, but they still prayed, still hoped, still fought. They knew that the soul must never be for sale, and today we stand because they refused to bow. But now the question is, what will we do with that legacy? Will we honor their struggle by living with purpose? Or will we dishonor them by begging for what is ours? Reclaiming our spirit begins with faith, not necessarily in religion, but in destiny, a belief that we are born for more than survival, that our people are not cursed, but chosen, that this continent is not a burden, but a blessing. When you believe in your spiritual power, you walk differently, you speak with authority, you do not accept insults disguised as help, you do not trade your dignity for a loaf of bread. You do not see your brother as your enemy and your oppressor as your savior. And when your spirit is strong, you can endure any trial. You can face sanctions, poverty, lies, and still stand, because you know that power is temporary, but truth is eternal. And the truth is, the African is not a beggar, the African is not a slave, the African is not a victim, the African is a builder, a creator, a warrior, a visionary. Our problem is not spiritual inheritance, i.e. is spiritual amnesia. We have forgotten who we are, and when you forget who you are, you begin to live like who you are not. Let us return to the altars of truth, to the stories of our heroes, the wisdom of our elders, the strength of our mothers, the silence of our ancestors who speak through the land. Let us return to prayer, to discipline, to unity, not as a formality, but as a force. Because the world is not moved by noise, it is moved by conviction, and conviction is a product of spiritual strength. It is not enough to be angry, you must be centered. It is not enough to be loud, you must be rooted. That root is spiritual, and until we water that root, we will remain a tree without fruit. The world will mock us, try to break us, seduce us with trinkets while stealing our treasures. But if our spirit is alive, we will not be moved. We will build when they laugh. We will rise when they push us down. We will speak truth when lies surround us, and we will fight not just with arms, but with purpose, with faith, with an unbreakable will to be free. So I say to you, wake up your spirit, cleanse it of fear, feed it with truth, guard it with discipline, because once your spirit is alive, no power on earth can break you. And if we are to build a future worthy of our name, it must begin with the rebirth of the African spirit, uncompromising, unyielding, unbreakable. The mind is a kingdom. Whoever rules it rules you. That is why the struggle we face today is not just a battle of guns or resources, but a battle to decolonize the mind. It is a strategic fight against the invisible chains that have been wrapped around our thinking for generations. It is easy to remove physical chains, but the most dangerous chains are those we do not see. The ones that live in our habits, our doubts, our beliefs. They teach us to feel small even when we stand tall. They make us think like slaves while we dress in suits. They make us speak of change while fearing to act. And until we free our minds, we will never truly be free. Our enemies knew that the sword could only conquer bodies, but the pen could conquer minds. So they entered our schools, our books, our media. They replaced our heroes with their kings. They replaced our languages with their words. They replaced our history with their lies. They didn't just steal our gold, they stole our confidence. They didn't just occupy our lands, they occupied our imagination. And today, even though their flags have been lowered, their influence still lives in the way we think. We see ourselves through their eyes, and so we live under the shadow of a mental colonialism that makes us feel grateful to our oppressors and suspicious of ourselves. We must break this, because a mind that has been conquered cannot build. A mind that doubts its own value cannot lead. A mind that thinks freedom is a gift from others will always beg, and we were not born to beg. We were not created to serve foreign interests. We were not placed on this earth to live at the mercy of those who feed us with one hand and exploit us with the other. The time has come to reprogram our minds, to delete the virus of colonial thought, to install the system of dignity, of courage, of independent thinking. Every great revolution began with a change in thinking. When the mind awakens, the body follows. When a people begin to think as owners, they build. When they begin to think as victims, they wait, and we have waited long enough. We have waited for others to approve our ideas, waited for loans to start projects, waited for permission to be ourselves, waited for praise from those who never wanted to see us rise, and this waiting must end. Because waiting is a symptom of mental enslavement, true freedom means thinking for yourself, believing in yourself, and taking action even when the world laughs. I say to you, start thinking like a creator, not a consumer. Start thinking like a leader, not a follower. Start thinking like a builder, not a beggar. We have the minds, we have the brains, we have the ideas. What we lack is confidence. Not the confidence of arrogance, but the confidence of conviction. the kind of belief that builds cities from dust and nations from nothing, the kind of courage that questions the status quo and dares to be different, the kind of mental toughness that refuses to surrender even when the battle seems lost. Look around you. The ones who control the world are not more intelligent, they are just more united, more strategic, more confident in their ideas. They have no fear of failure. But we, the ones who invented math, who built pyramids without machines, who organized societies before the word civilization, existed we now doubt ourselves because someone else told you, we were nothing. Enough is enough. We must teach our children to think beyond survival, to ask questions, to build, invent, lead, and serve with integrity. We must make education a tool for liberation, not imitation. Our universities must produce solutions, not copy foreign models. Our youth must know their history so they can rewrite the future. And let me tell you this, decolonizing the mind is not an event, it is a process. A daily fight against mental laziness, against dependency, against fear. IT means challenging every thought that makes you feel powerless. IT means surrounding yourself with ideas that uplift, books that inspire, voices that push you to grow. IT means taking responsibility for your thoughts because thoughts become words, words become actions, and actions become legacy. I stand before you today to say this with no hesitation. Our liberation begins in the mind. Our emancipation begins in thought. And if we master our thinking, we will master our destiny, because no empire can stand against a people who have made up their minds to be free. And when the African mind is free, the body will rise, the spirit will roar, and the world will never be the same again. The time has come for us to speak of the physical struggle not in a way that glorifies violence, but in a way that awakens responsibility. Because if the spirit is the flame and the mind is the blueprint, then the body is the tool, and any nation that wishes to be respected must be ready to defend itself, to build with its hands, to sacrifice comfort for dignity. You cannot preach freedom while hiding from sacrifice. You cannot declare independence while others feed you, protect you, and build for you. There comes a time when talk is no longer enough. The body must act. The body must endure. The body must build. The body must defend, because no struggle is complete until IT touches the ground, and the ground is where sweat is shed, where feet march, where hands work, and where history is written with action. For too long we have celebrated theories without results. For too long we have held meetings while our streets remain dirty, our youth remain jobless, our villages remain untouched by development. While others are planting, manufacturing, exporting, we are still importing everything from toothpaste to ideas, and yet we have the muscle, we have the energy, we have the raw power of a youthful population that could transform this continent in one generation if only we learn to respect labor, if only we learn to use our hands as well as our voices, because no one respects a people who refuse to work. No one fears a nation that depends on others for its own survival. Physical power is not just found in arms, it is found in effort, in discipline, in consistency. The farmer who plants daily is exercising physical power. The engineer who builds infrastructure is a warrior. The soldier who patrols the borders is a symbol of sovereignty. The youth who refuses to waste his body on drugs, who refuses to be a tool for chaos, who refuses to stand idle while others lead, that youth is a soldier in the struggle for dignity. The fight is physical because real change must be implemented, not just imagined. And when a nation learns to sweat for its progress, no enemy can take IT away. Some may ask, what does physical fighting look like in modern times? IT is not always with bullets. Sometimes IT is the march to demand rights. Sometimes IT is the building of a school in a forgotten village. Sometimes IT is standing guard at a border. Sometimes IT is enduring hardship without giving up. Sometimes IT is refusing to sell your country for a bribe. Physical struggle is every act that requires sacrifice and discipline. IT is every decision to stand, to work, to defend, to create. And if you look at the world today, you will see that those who hold power are those who understand the value of physical strength. Look at the nations who are feared. They have strong armies, strong work ethic, strong infrastructure. They do not outsource their defense. They do not allow others to build for them. They use their bodies as tools of nation building. And that is what we must do. We must turn our physical presence into a force of development. We must turn our youthful energy into productive action. Because if we do not, that same energy will be used to destroy, to riot, to escape, to drown in foreign seas seeking what we could have built at home. We must rebuild the culture of work, the culture of service, the culture of sacrifice. No nation ever rose from comfort. Freedom is paid for with blood, with sweat, with time, with commitment. We must raise a generation that is not afraid to get their hands dirty, to fight for something greater than themselves, to stand guard over their future. The fight is physical in the fields, in the factories, in the barracks, in the parliaments, in the streets, and everybody has a role to play. You don't have to be a soldier to defend your country. Just be excellent in your duty, be honest in your work, be courageous in your sacrifice. We cannot wait for the world to fix us. We must roll up our sleeves and fix ourselves. We cannot expect the fruits of freedom without the labor of responsibility. Let us use our bodies to build, to defend, to serve, to sacrifice. Let us teach our children that true dignity is earned through action, not donations. Because a nation that does not work will not last, and a people who fear sacrifice will never taste victory. The future belongs to the disciplined, to the strong, to the brave. And if we truly desire freedom, then we must be willing to pay its price through our physical commitment, through our daily grind, through our unwavering labor. Because real power is not just spoken, it is built. We must now turn to the most misunderstood yet most powerful part of our fight, the spiritual battle. Because before a nation falls, its spirit is broken. Before a people are enslaved, their faith in themselves is destroyed. Before the mind is conquered and the body is controlled, the spirit is silenced. The struggle we face is not just political, not just economic. It is a struggle of purpose, of soul, of identity. And if we do not win the spiritual fight, then no amount of education, no level of strategy, no degree of military strength will ever be enough. The spirit is where dignity lives. It is where hope is born. It is where the flame of resistance burns when the world says surrender. The spirit is what makes a man stand when he is beaten. It is what makes a nation rise after decades of humiliation. It is what makes a woman fight for her children even when she has nothing left. That is why our enemies have always attacked our spirit first. They mocked our culture, they ridiculed our gods, they demonized our beliefs. They told us that we were nothing until they arrived, and many of us believed it. They destroyed our altars, they banned our rituals, they called our ancestors savages, and in doing so, they killed our confidence and planted shame where pride once stood. But we must reclaim our spirit. Not in a way that divides, but in a way that unites. We must return to the roots that gave our forefathers the courage to defend their land with sticks against guns. We must reawaken the inner fire that drives a people to sacrifice, to persevere, to endure. The spirit is our final fortress. If that falls, then everything else crumbles. But if that stands, then even when we are outnumbered, outgunned, outspoken, we remain unbroken. We need a spiritual awakening that rises above religion and speaks to a higher purpose. A purpose that tells every child born on this continent that they are not an accident, that they are not lesser, that they carry the blood of kings and the legacy of builders. A purpose that makes our youth see themselves as the answer, not the problem. A purpose that makes our leaders fear nothing except the disappointment of their people. Without purpose, we are lost. Without a sense of mission, we become easy to manipulate. But a people who know why they exist can never be defeated. To win the spiritual fight, we must clean ourselves of self-hate. We must stop mocking our own accents, our own clothes, our own values. We must stop worshiping those who do not care for us. We must lift our eyes from screens that show you as nothing but violence and degradation and begin to focus on that which builds character, builds faith, builds community. We must teach our children to be proud of their name, their skin, their history. Because if you hate who you are, you will never fight to protect it. The spiritual struggle is fought in the quiet moments, in the decision to do right even when wrong is easier, in the refusal to take bribes, in the choice to forgive but not to forget, in the ability to stay humble when success comes, in the resilience to keep going when everything falls apart. That is real strength. That is spiritual power. That is the fire that empires cannot destroy, and let me tell you this, the world is watching. They know that if Africa finds her spirit again, the game is over. They fear a continent that is no longer begging but believing. They fear a people who no longer feel inferior but who walk tall knowing who they are. They fear a nation whose prayer is not just to survive but to conquer, and that is why the fight is spiritual. Because when our spirits rise, our minds will think clearly, our bodies will stand strong, our actions will be united, and our destiny will be fulfilled. So I say to you, rise in spirit, rise in faith, rise in dignity, rise in honor. Because when the spirit is unbreakable, nothing in this world can break a people determined to be free.